Here's another example. As you read through this, you realize it says a huge national deficit. Now, 39% of the people said yes. But we have some wording bias here, even though our sampling process was fine. So because of the wording bias of the huge national deficit, we would not be able to trust our survey results. As you look down here, we have two questions. The way you phrase your questions, once again, can give you a slightly different result. So be aware of that. Be aware that whenever you're looking at data, you want to look at how they collected the data, meaning the questions they asked, who they asked, how they came up with who they asked, before you can actually believe the results. You also want to take a look at the non-response and when the survey was taken. Because if you're talking about a data or a survey taken 10 years ago about the internet, that would not be real relevant to what we're looking at today. Now, we're taking samples and we're trying to draw conclusions from samples so that we can then make conclusions about the whole population. So you're learning stuff about your sample to draw conclusions about the whole population. That's your inferential statistics, and that's what we're going to start looking at in a couple of weeks. We come up with an estimate, and we try to eliminate as much bias as we can through our simple random sampling, good question asking, and people asking appropriate questions, and so on. And also, the bigger the sample you have, the better the results you typically get. Now, looking through this question here, what kind of sampling method was used? Well, as you read through here, you realize that it's a voluntary sample. Looking down here at this one, which one is not a probability sample? Well, a simple random sample is probability sample. A stratified sample and multi-stage are also probability samples. A voluntary sample is not, just like a convenience sample would not be. Well, how about this one? The overall sample here we would say is stratified. Stratified because you're breaking it into groups of your undergraduate and your graduate, and you're choosing simple random samples from each one. Now here, what would be a multi-stage situation? Well, our multi-stage situation here would be when you select the 10 colleges, and within each college you select 5 majors, and from each major you select 4 students. So you're stratifying it to the 10 colleges. And then you're doing another layer of stratifying by selecting 5 majors within each one of those 10 colleges. And then you're doing another level by going ahead and selecting 4 students out of each one of those majors. Now, as you look through this one here, the type of bias that we would have here would be from our question wording bias. Looking at a local phone book, if you want to do a simple random sample from that, you would then have an under coverage bias because not everybody has a phone number that's listed in the phone book. And so you would not be having or giving everybody a fair chance to be in the survey. Now, since people respond to a male and female differently, we would consider that to be an interviewer bias.